The story of the prodigal son illustrates the meaning of true repentance. It's about a young Jewish man who rebelled against all that he'd been taught, turned his back on his father, was lured by the bright lights of the big city, and ended up in a pig pen feeding swine. It couldn't get much worse. So let's take a look at how Jesus tells the story in Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 16. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. And not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. And he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything." But then the young man does 3 things that turned his life around. First, he changed his mind, as we see in verse 17. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am, starving to death." Secondly, he redirected his will, as we see in verses 18 and 19. "I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.'" And third, he took action, as we see in the first part of verse 20, where it says, "So he got up and went to his father." Repentance is a change of mind, which brings about a change of will and results in a change of action. And what did it lead to? Let's take a look at the rest of verse 20 and then verses 21 through 24. "But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate." So for this young man, this change of mind, will, and action led to his forgiveness and restoration to his family. So here are a couple of things about sin that we need to know. First, God will uncover every sin that we try to cover up. 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 5 says, "Therefore judge nothing before the appointed time. Wait until the Lord comes. He will bring to light what is hidden in darkness and will expose the motives of the heart. At that time, each will receive their praise from God." So know that God sees, hears, and knows everything. And second, God will cover every sin that we uncover. Proverbs 28:13 says, "Whoever conceals their sins does not prosper, but the one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy." So go ahead, confess and forsake your sin, and God will cover it with the blood of Christ. There's no good reason to wait when you can do it now. For true repentance brings restoration. And that's the word for you today. Now, there is so much more to discover in this story of the prodigal son. And I'm so excited that Pastor Todd is going to be looking at this story in much greater detail in March during worship at the Village Church. So I hope that you'll be there for that. Also want to thank you for your gifts to the Super Bowl of Caring. We're still totaling the grocery items and the cash donations, but it appears that this year's Super Bowl went to the dogs, as in the Puppy Bowl. It's the first year that our alternate choice has impacted our contest to pick the winner. I wonder what Taylor Swift thinks of that. We'll release the final tally on our Facebook page at the Village Church at World Golf Village just as soon as everything is counted. But thank you so much for giving. You are making a difference in the lives of people. Have a great week, church, and I'll be back on Friday with more from the Word for You today.